Hello, welcome to He's Hot But Something Is Off with me, just Joey T. And this week is a special edition of the podcast. We're going to talk all about the recently announced Atlantis Thanksgiving cruise sailing out of Miami. Now, as I record this, it is Monday, July the 1st, as I'm recording this. And currently, the cruise, this Thanksgiving cruise, is on alumni pre-sale. So I expect that within the next 1 or 2 weeks, possibly even when this podcast is released, it will go on to sale to the general public, and it'll be on the public Atlantis website. But since I am a Atlantis alumni, I'm on their alumni email mailing list. So that's why today I'm going to spill all the tea and give you all the details and some of my advice about this upcoming Thanksgiving Atlantis cruise. All right, let's start with the basics. It's going to sail from November 25th to the 30th out of Miami. So it will be a 5-night cruise. A lot of Atlantis cruises are 7 nights or a full week. This one is a couple of days shorter. And I first started sailing with Atlantis in 2015, 9 years ago. And during that time, I don't recall there having been a Thanksgiving cruise. So in recent memory, I don't think they've done any Thanksgiving cruises. And it's on a Virgin Voyages ship. In this case, it's the Resilient Lady, which is actually a very new ship. Its first maiden voyage was just May of last year in 2023. Virgin is a very new cruise line. We'll get a little bit more into some of the uniqueness of the Virgin ships and how it applies to the Atlantis cruises. But those are your basics. Again, November 25th to the 30th of this year over Thanksgiving, basically U.S. Thanksgiving. It'll be 5 nights sailing out of Miami. So next, let's look at some of the ports. By the way, cruise itineraries are always subject to change. And I've been on more than a few cruises where they had to change the itinerary after the ship has set sail because of weather conditions, because of, like some of these factors that are kind of like unforeseeable circumstances. And I've also been booked on a few cruises where in the months or even weeks leading up to the cruise, sometimes they've had to change the itinerary. So I just want to put that disclaimer out there. But as of today, the cruise itinerary is going to be Nassau, Bahamas on the 26th. November 27th is a sea day. On the 28th, it will be Puerto Plata in Dominican Republic. And then the last full day on the 29th is another sea day. And you get back to Miami 7 a.m. on November the 30th. So pretty decent itinerary, I think. So those are the basics that you need to know. Let's talk a little bit about the ship itself. So Atlantis has sailed on the Virgin Voyages ships quite a small handful of times now, like 3 or 4 times. This year alone, they've have a lot of Virgin ships on their itinerary. They did a 5-night Australia cruise early in the year. They are doing 2 10-day Mediterranean Virgin cruises back to back next month in August. This is going to be another Virgin addition to the Atlantis 2024 cruise calendar, if you will. I've not sailed on a Virgin ship at all. I've been really wanting to try out one of the ships. It's a really new cruise line. They've only launched. We're supposed to launch, I think, in 2020, I believe, but then COVID got in the way, so they basically had to delay everything. So they really only started sailing kind of en masse very recently, only in the last 1 or 2 years, really. And they have a few ships now, and the Resilient Lady, again, it's a really new ship. Its first maiden voyage was May 2023. So sometimes the danger on a really, really new ship is that not all the bugs have been worked out yet. I'm not saying that it's unsafe, but running a cruise ship is very complex. And if you have a brand new ship, even the crew is still acclimating to it and getting used to all of that. But, the ship sailed for a year now. All like the little kinks and bugs and everything should be worked out. But physically, it's always really nice to sail on like a really new ship because there's like minimal wear and tear, and all the technology and the decor and everything is just like bang up to date. Sometimes you go onto a ship that's been sailing out there for like, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years. Maybe it hasn't been refurbished or updated in like the last little bit. And sometimes it feels like a bit of a dated ship. You're not going to have that problem with any of the Virgin ships. Some of the unique things about Virgin voyages, which will also transfer and carry on to the Atlantis charters, is that almost all the restaurants are included. So on the Atlantis website, they say every single restaurant is included in like the price of your cruise fare. From the sleuthing and the reviews I've been reading, there's supposed to be maybe one restaurant, or there's like part of a menu in one restaurant where it's like there's like a cost option. But by and large, 90% of the food is going to be free. This is compared to most other cruise lines where you get a number of free restaurants, or sometimes you have a restaurant or two where part of the menu is free, and then there are some cost options, like fancier options. And then there are some specialty restaurants where it's like a regular restaurant where you have to pay to go there. The other thing that's included that most other cruise lines don't do, and I wish all of them would, is that most basic non-alcoholic beverages are included. If you go on a regular cruise line, Royal Caribbean or whatever, you don't even get water. If you're in a restaurant or something, yeah, there's like you can get water that way, but like otherwise, if you're in your room, you're drinking like the tap water from out of like the bathroom sink, which is actually all filtered. All the water on every cruise ship is like very filtered, and everything's drinkable. But it's just like, I don't know, you're paying like $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. You can't even get like a, anyways, it's my little pet peeve about that. But on a Virgin cruise ship, they do things a little bit differently, which is nice. So I have here from the Virgin website all the types of non-alcoholic beverages that are included. So there's still and sparkling water, non-pressed juices, sodas, sachet teas, and drip coffee. Every other cruise line I've been on, soda is almost always extra. And they charge you like so much to have like a soda package, or to like get like a can of soda or like a glass of soda. Teas and drip coffee you can get for free on most cruise lines. It's not like something that's gonna be delivered to your room, but it's like there's usually like a cafe or something like that on the cruise ship where you can get drip coffee for free. So that's not like a huge deal. What I've been reading on some of the forums is that with the water being free, it's your stateroom attendant will actually give you a pitcher of water every day. So don't quote me on that. I don't have the first-hand experience, but this is what I read from some passengers who have sailed on for Virgin Voyage cruise ships in some of the forums online, where they said, yeah, you can ask your stateroom attendant for like a pitcher or like a carafe of water every day, and they'll fill it for you. You can have still or sparkling water, which is nice to have that option. And one of my favorite things is water stations where you can fill up your own water bottle. So apparently Virgin encourages you to bring your own water bottle, and they have they say it's throughout the ship, but I think it's not like, they don't have like 50 of them. It's maybe just like a small number of filtered water stations like you might find at like a gym or like an airport, where you can just bring your own water bottle and you can just fill it like that. So that I find really, really awesome. It's so weird when I go on a cruise ship. One of the most, like a weirdly difficult thing is to do like filtered water. The last 3 or 4 cruises I've been on, I actually packed in my luggage a like Brita water pitcher, like the type you would have at home to keep in your fridge, to like have filtered water, to filter water from the tap. Like, yes, you could just drink water directly from the tap in your bathroom. All the water on all modern cruise ships it's very filtered, and it's like very safe to drink, but sometimes it just doesn't taste like the best because of like the chlorine and like the chemicals they use to treat the water to make sure it's safe. So having the Brita, for me, it filters out some of the chlorine, just makes it taste better. And it's just nice to have like a pitcher of water that I put into the mini fridge in the cabin. So I have chilled, cooled water in a pitcher. That's just really nice. So to have this like water that can be delivered to your stateroom for free, and to have like water stations. That part of it is really nice. Wi-Fi, you get free basic Wi-Fi, 2 devices per person. So most cruise lines make you pay a lot of money. So Royal Caribbean, for example, is going to charge you, I don't know, upwards of like $150 to like $200 for 7 days worth of internet for like 1 device. Okay. So here you get basic Wi-Fi, basic meaning you can't stream music or videos. It's just for basic web surfing, emails, things like that. It's not super fast, but it'll get you along. So that's great. And they also offer an option for a premium Wi-Fi, which you can pay for if you want to stream videos or whatnot. So it sounds like little things, right? In 2024, to have like basic Wi-Fi and to have like water and juice and soda for free, it sounds like, we're not living in the Stone Ages, right? But such is the norm in the cruising industry that the fact that Virgin does this really makes it like a really good value that you get some of these things included with the fare. The cruise line is all 18 plus. So on the ship, you don't get any playground, teen areas. There's a tattoo parlor that's on their ships. There are karaoke rooms. You do karaoke. So the whole ship was designed from the ground up to be 18 plus, to be just for adults. That part of it is particularly nice for something like an Atlantis charter sailing. So it's a mid-sized ship. This one, all the Virgin ships are like pretty much the same design. They just have like a few different copies of it. And maximum capacity is just under 2,800 passengers. That's if you max out the occupancy for every single room. Effectively, you're not going to get that many people on the ship. This cruise, I don't think is going to sell out because those in the US might already kind of have this thought in their heads already. People tend to visit family for Thanksgiving. Not everybody. I don't, because my family is Canadian. They're up in Canada. Canadian Thanksgiving is in October. And in Canada, Thanksgiving is not like the same as culturally as what US Thanksgiving is to Americans, where in the US, it's like everyone. It's like the one holiday of the entire year, maybe more so than Christmas, where you go home and be with your family. So in Canada, it's like Thanksgiving is not as big of a deal. So the fact that people tend to just go home and be with family is naturally going to take some of the demand off of a cruise that sails during Thanksgiving. But, if you don't have any particular Thanksgiving plans, do you like traveling for Thanksgiving? You're not someone who usually like hangs up with family like I wouldn't. This could be possibly a good option. So let's talk a little bit about the rates and the fees and booking this particular cruise, because I've looked through all the rooms that are on offer. I've looked through all the rates that are on offer. The prices I'm going to quote here for the rooms are the alumni prices, which tend to be a little bit lower than the prices when it goes out to the general public for the general sale. So just keep that in mind. Whenever you book, you just need to make sure that the prices you're looking at are applicable to you. All right, first of all, I want to kick it out with the fees, because there's the rate of the room that you see. That's the big $ number that's published. But when you actually go to book a room, there are always a set of fares and port fees. It's kind of like one inclusive fee that's tacked on per person, okay? And the gratuities are included in what I usually just call them port fees, okay? So listed on the Atlantis alumni website is $220 per person for the fees, okay? And the gratuities are included in that. It's actually a reasonable port fee, actually, per person. And if you want to add a third or fourth person into the room, it's $5.99 per additional person. So most of the rates are assuming double occupancy, meaning they assume there's going to be 2 people in one room. But I'm going to focus in on some of the solo options, because I find some of the solo options very interesting. There is one rate that stood out to me when I was browsing this, and it was like so weird that I actually messaged a contact of mine at Atlantis just to like double check whether I was reading this properly and like how the fees for that is calculated. The first solo option I'm going to talk about, it's coded T1. There's like a code for all of these things. And it's the solo terrace option, okay? So on every cruise ship, there are like interior rooms that have no windows. You have the window rooms where you have like a window. And then you have balcony rooms where it's a ocean balcony. So this T1 solo terrace option is a solo balcony room rate. So for alumni, it's listed at $1,799. And I checked with my Atlantis contact, and that is a single occupancy rate, which means if you were to, as an alumni, if you were to book that T1 solo terrace room today, and you're the only person staying in that room solo, the cost to you would be $1,799 plus the $220 port fee per person, and your cost would come up to $2,019. So that's actually a really good deal if you're going to be traveling solo and you're thinking about going on this cruise. So it's kind of nice that they have this rate. This is not something that Atlantis usually does. The fine print for this rate is that you do not get to choose your exact cabin. You don't get to choose your stateroom. Usually when you book a room with Atlantis, at the time of booking, you get to choose the exact specific room that you would like. So if you were to book an Atlantis cruise on their Atlantis online reservation system, for example, as you're going through the booking process, you actually get a map of all the rooms that are available. You can click on the one to select and book that exact room. With this particular T1 solo terrace rate, the fine print is that you don't get to choose your exact room. But that aside, it is a good value. And also keeping in mind that, in my opinion, I don't think this cruise is going to sell out. Now, if I thought this cruise was going to sell out and you were going to pick this solo terrace room, I would be warning you that, hey, you might not get the best location because you're leaving up to Atlantis basically to give you whatever leftover balcony room is available for you because you don't get to choose your own, right? So they have an incentive to give you like a really great location that's like near an elevator or has like the best view, for example. So there are some balconies where the view is limited or obscured, or some locations where maybe for most people it's not the best. But because I don't think this cruise is going to sell out, the chance of that is of them giving you like a bad room if you book this rate and let Atlantis choose a room for you is not super high. That's just my opinion anyways. So if you are thinking about doing this solo for $2,000 US basically, that's a good value. Okay, that's a really, really good value. So I wanted to highlight that for all of you that might be solo travelers interested potentially in this cruise. Now, more for solo travelers, but on the flip side, where I think these ones are not a great deal, you see two other rates on the list of rooms that are for solo cruisers, more solo rates, okay? So there is a V1 Solo Sea View, so it's a window room, and an I1 Solo Insider. So it's an inside room, no windows, no view, no nothing. And these are both solo single occupancy rates as well. Now, Virgin has designed their ships to have some rooms that are physically designed specifically for solo travelers. Most cruise lines, where they design their ships, they design every single room to be at least double occupancy. They don't really design rooms, physically design the rooms laid out just for single solo travelers. But Virgin does have a small number of rooms on all their ships that are physically designed for people traveling by themselves. And this V1 and the I1 rooms are examples of that. Now, I don't think these are good value. And unless you want the absolute cheapest way to get your own private room on this cruise, I would recommend you book a different type of room if possible. It's because when you look into details for these two particular rooms, they have like a twin size bed. It's quite a narrow bed. You know, if you're sleeping all by yourself, it's not like a big deal, but some people are used to sleeping all by themselves in like a full size bed or like a queen size bed, people like me. And the way I sleep, for example, if I was on a twin size bed every night, I would be banging my knee on the wall like every single night. And that would not be a pleasant experience, okay? And these rooms, besides having a small bed, the room themselves, in terms of like the square footage, is quite a bit smaller. They're about very roughly about a third smaller than like a regular size cabin. So especially if you're on a inside solo room where there are no windows and no view outside, to be within like, I think the room size for that is just a touch over 100 square feet. Okay, so imagine your room is barely 100 square feet, which is very small, twin size bed, quite narrow, no view out. So if you're the type who likes small, cozy places, fine. But for some people, that could feel pretty claustrophobic. And just in terms of like the dollar amounts you spend versus what you're getting, I don't think these are great value. So if you really want to go on this cruise and your priority is getting on the cruise in the cheapest way possible and you're a solo traveler, and you don't mind a smaller bed, you don't mind a small room, that's like maybe a tight fit, don't bring too much luggage, honestly, I think these are fine. If you can spend just like a couple, maybe $300 more, just like $200 or $300 more, and get much better value just by booking one of the rooms that's not designed for solo travel, just like a regular size window view room, a regular size interior room. You're gonna get a room that's about a third bigger, and you're gonna get a queen size bed instead of like a twin size bed. So just value wise, I think you get a much better value. I still think the T1 Solo Terrans, like the solo rate for the balcony room and the ocean balcony room, is probably like the best value for a solo traveler, because only for like $2,000, barely $2,000, including like the port fee, I think that's actually a really good deal. The rest of the rooms are just like pretty standard type rooms, so nothing super noteworthy. These solo rooms are kind of special for like a couple of reasons, so that's why I wanted to spend extra time to highlight them. If you're gonna be traveling as a couple or just have two people to a room, you know, like the rooms that are for double occupancy, the regular rooms, if you will, they are run-of-the-mill rooms, nothing super special, no particular pitfalls or anything. There are also suites, just like there are suites on every single cruise ship. And usually what Atlantis does is when you fill out a special form to book the suites, they have like a different system and a different way of handling the suite requests, because suites are always like the highest demand types of cabins on every single Atlantis sailing, regardless of when and where and what kind of ship it is. The suites are always the first to sell out, bar none, 100% of the time. And they have a different system for how to handle that. And it's the same for this particular sailing as well. Atlantis has a special form that you need to fill out if you want to book a suite. So there you go, a little overview of the ship itself, of the sailings, of the dates, of the itinerary. Again, right now, as I'm recording this, is still on alumni pre-sale. So if you go to the regular public Atlantis website, you're not gonna see the webpage, the section of the website for this particular cruise yet. However, I expect that the alumni pre-sale will probably wrap up within the next 1 or 2 weeks. So after the alumni pre-sale wraps up, it will be opened up for general public, for general sale, and then they will publish all the same information to the public Atlantis website for everybody to be able to access. Again, usually alumni get a little bit of a discount on the rate. So the rates that I've mentioned in this podcast, because we're still in the alumni pre-sale phase, these are all alumni pricing. So it's likely that when it goes to general pre-sale, the prices will be like a little bit more expensive, anywhere from like $50 to maybe like $200. It kind of depends on the specific room. So just make sure you check and double check the pricing before you commit. Now, besides the fact that this is over the US Thanksgiving, which is like a major US holiday, the thing you have to keep in mind about that, people in the US will know about this, it's expensive to fly anywhere during major holidays. This is like the start of winter, basically, in terms of like the winter weather. Airports will be busier, planes will be packed. You know, if you're coming from somewhere where it's cold, that's going to be like extra weather disruptions potentially to deal with. Those things aside, I think this would be a pretty good cruise for a first timer. If you've not sailed with Atlantis before, I think this would be like a decent one to go on, especially if you don't have any Thanksgiving plans. And also, if you are not so sure about being on a ship for like a full week. So the Australia cruise that Atlantis sailed early this year, I think it was in March, was a 5-day cruise. And it wasn't sold out. I know that for a fact. It wasn't sold out because it's very like region specific, right? You know, someone in the US and even Europe, they're not going to fly to Australia, which is quite a long flight just to go on like a 5-day cruise. It was kind of sort of meant for the locals in that region, if you will. If spending 7 days on a cruise ship gives you cold feet, this is as short as it gets. So you don't have Thanksgiving plans and you will want to like do something, like travel somewhere, go somewhere for Thanksgiving, and you either have sailed with Atlantis before and you love doing cruises and you just are looking for an excuse to like do another Atlantis cruise or a Atlantis cruise this year, or you are curious about the Atlantis cruises, but you don't want to be on like a 7 or even like a 10-day cruise. You just want to find one that's shorter and it's 5 days. This could be a good one. So you notice I'm putting so much like, well, if you're this and this and this, like so many conditions, that's why I don't think this cruise is going to sell out. Almost every other cruise Atlantis has put on sale for this year has sort of the upcoming ones, the 2 10-day Virgin cruises in the Mediterranean in August that are back-to-back. Those sold out like months ago. The October cruise that happens every single year that goes from California down to Mexico, that one sold out as well. It sold out fairly quickly, actually. And even the one for February 2025, like the big party cruise that's at the beginning of every year that goes from Florida down to the Caribbean, is February for next year in 2025. Last I heard, I think this was like 2 weeks ago, last I heard it was 80% sold. And by now it's probably like 85 or 90% gone. And like that is like a 5,500 person ship. That's like one of the largest cruise ships in the world. It takes so many people. And they're like over 80% sold out for that one. And that's not till February. But for this one, I don't think it's going to sell out. So what that means is I don't think you need to be in a hurry to book this one. It was something that I think was very, very popular. You know, I gave the advice a few episodes ago where if you're on the fence about a cruise and if someone thinks, me, that it's likely to sell out, you might want to consider just booking it now. And if it's like a cruise that's hot and in demand, it won't be a problem to just like sell your cabin out later. But there'll be very likely people that want to get in on the cruise at the last minute. You can just sell your room then. You won't have too much trouble finding a buyer. But for this one, I think you can afford to take your time a little bit. I don't think you need to rush to book this one. Rates do tend to go up over time, but I don't think the rates are going to ramp up as much as some of the other cruises, just because I don't think there's going to be high demand. I think in terms of the atmosphere on the cruise, I talked about the February Caribbean cruise that goes from Florida to the Caribbean. That one being like a big party cruise. That's the rowdiest crowd. I also briefly mentioned the October cruise, usually end of October, that goes from California down to Mexico. They have that one every year. That's actually the one I most recommend to first-time cruisers who are curious about what an Atlantis cruise is like. But it's that one, it's a really good mix of party people, but like not too rowdy party people, like people that know how to have a good time, but also know their limits. And also just like a really good mix of people from like all over the US and all the different age groups. And it's like a very manageable size, which is about like 25 to 3,000 passengers on the October one. So that's like the most reliable one. They have it every single year as well. I have a good time on that one every single time that I went, and I went on several of those. I've also volunteered on the October ones as well, where like the parties have just enough party people in them where like it's like a good party, it's like happening, but it's not rowdy. So I feel like that's like the best mix and the best general one to go on as a first timer. But I think this one is probably going to be a bit tamer. I don't expect there to be too many like party boys, quote unquote, going on this November one. I feel like November is like a weird season to go on a cruise in a way, which is probably why they haven't really done Thanksgiving cruises before, because they already had the one in October, right? And that one is steady. That one's every year. People know about that one. People will go on that one. People have already booked that one, but that one's already sold out. But there you go. That's all the information I think you need to know about the upcoming, recently announced Atlantis Thanksgiving cruise for 5 nights, November 25th to the 30th, coming up. And it should go on public sale pretty soon. If you have any questions or want any advice about this particular cruise, just go ahead, go to the YouTube version of my podcast. That's followed by my YouTube channel, Just Joey T. And just leave a comment on this video or any of the videos. YouTube just pops up all the comments that are left on any of my videos, and I will get them. And I will try to address them for you. Next week, I'll talk about another cruise that has also been just announced by Atlantis, and it also went on alumni pre-sale last week at the same time as the Thanksgiving cruise. And that one is a South Caribbean cruise. So Atlantis, they usually do 2 Caribbean cruises every year at the beginning of the year. There's like the big party one on like the giant Royal Caribbean ship, 5,500 guys, and it's usually January or maybe February, okay? And usually like a few weeks later, February or March, they have a smaller ship that's the quote-unquote South Caribbean or the exotic Caribbean cruise that sets sail as well. So they also released the information on that one. Is selling February 22nd to March the 1st on the Resilient Lady. It's actually the exact same ship as the Thanksgiving cruise, another Virgin Voyages one. And in next week's podcast episode, I'm going to deep dive into that Southern Caribbean cruise, just like I did today on the Thanksgiving cruise. So if you're interested in that one, stay tuned, follow me, and follow this podcast, and I will do the deep dive on that one next week. But until next time, bye, y'all.